Welcome to Momming and Thriving. We are starting our Boss Mom series month, and today we have the fantastic Nengi. Nengi is a wife, a mother, a senior marketing manager at FairMoney, a Fintech company in Nigeria. She's a talent manager to creative influencers in Nigeria at the FSV Talent Management Agency. In her spare time, she loves to dabble in interior decorations, and she has successfully completed 2 projects. Being an experienced marketing expert, a tech leader with over 12 years experience in brand and strategic management sector. She's well versed in marketing strategy, brand storytelling, advertising, PR management, digital marketing, corporate communications, and she's worked across many fintech sectors, including FMCG, consumer electronics, pharmaceuticals, and other public sectors in Nigeria. One of the highlights of her career includes starting and growing a global consumer electronics brand, Oppo, from scratch in Nigeria in 2018. And currently, she's leading the transformation of a leading fintech brand, FairMoney, which is a company to a credit-led digital bank in Nigeria. Wow, wow. Welcome, Nengi. Thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
joining us today on Momming and Thriving. Can you tell us something that is not in your bio, because that is an amazing bio?
Oh, well, there's a lot that's not there, but I will just say one more thing. I also co-manage my husband's business. It's called Nedhead NG. So we do like a system of security solutions, inverter setups for Nigerian homes, businesses, and commercial estates in Nigeria. So I co-run the business for him, especially in terms of the financial part of it and then the marketing of that business.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. So apart from your career life, what do you do in your spare time? Like how do you unwind? How do you relax? What does Nengi enjoy doing? Well, I would say, I stated the interior decor things. I like to move things around, even in my house. Yesterday, I just changed the dining table setting, and I just love to see like new stuff, color combinations and all that. But beyond that, I love to unwind with a good TV series. I play video games on my phone a lot. My husband complains, but it just helps me, step down from all the different things I'm juggling in my head, So yes, those 2 things.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow. So you've even what you do in your spare time is still like a bit of a hustling thing. Interior decoration, I'm sure. Once you've completed 2 projects, there is also still a chance to kind of hustle and make money from this. Have you always had this hustling mentality or business? Have you always been business savvy, even as a child?
To be honest, I wouldn't even consider myself as being business savvy. I just do what I love. I really just do what I love. And when I do that, I do it so well because I'm doing it from a place of love. And then it attracts, the compensation, it attracts the reward. So even when I started the talent management agency that I currently run, I started it out of a place of, connecting to the entertainment industry, the creative industry, because it also helps my job, as well. And then I realized that I could actually earn from this, as well as my interior decor project. So when I started, I started with my own house, and then my husband's office. And then when people saw it, were like, this is so good, come and do a room for me, come and, and all that. So it's really about doing what you love. And, who knows, depending on how good you are, right? People would want to pay you for that. So I wouldn't say I had a hustling mentality from when I was little. I've just been creative. I've just enjoyed, being creative, and it just seems to, bring some monetary reward.
Yeah, I think that creativity, I would say definitely I've noticed that. Oh, I didn't mention this. A disclaimer, something I've not mentioned.
Nengi and I went to the same high school. Oh my God. Yes. And yes, she has always been creative. And it's absolutely fantastic when you are doing what you know. And then there's also like a financial reward there as well. Yeah. So in terms of your current career, was this what you planned to do when you were younger? Did you always think that you were going to be in this industry? So no, when I when I was growing up, my dad wanted me to be a doctor. I was always good at sciences. I mean, in school, and I was aligned with my dad when he said, I should go to school to study medicine. But aside from, really getting into the career part of it, I always loved to be creative. So even when I was in primary school, I was in the choir. I used to play instruments then. And then when there was a shoot for school, like the cover of the exercise book, the school exercise book, I would be one of the models that would be used. I loved to debate, so it was a lot of extracurricular activities that I did then. And so moving to secondary school, I was good at science, so I gravitated towards science. And then when I came out, my dad chose medicine for me. I got into prelim and it didn't work out, right, for one reason or the other. But my dad then said, oh, the future is tech. The future is, computer science. So go study computer science. And I did, right? But even while I was studying computer science, I would look out for creative projects to be a part of. It had always been there. And then when I graduated, I never for one day practiced what I studied in school. So I never for once went into that industry. I started out as an event planner. So I was working in an events company and I was the PA, the procurement manager, the executive assistant. I was everything, to my boss then. And when the opportunity opened up for me to join an advertising company, I just tried out the test. It was like a challenge for me, right? I tried it out and I passed and I just got in. So there wasn't really a specific plan, like to toe the line, in which I have done. It was just something that happened out of luck, I would say, or faith, and when I got in, I realized I enjoyed it so much. It was so effortless to me. And it was a combination of all my best skills, all the things that I loved to do. And so I knew that, it was going to be something that I would do for a long time. Well, the thing you said, and I won't even attribute it only to luck, but I would say that the ability you have to try new things, I think that's what kind of holds us back sometimes. I was reading recently where it says that a lot of successful people actually just are willing to try new things. Yeah. Because it's that ability to just be adaptable, to be flexible, to be open, that you end up finding out that you actually enjoy something. But that initial desire to try something new, I think is amazing. And people underestimate that ability, just being flexible and being absolutely open. Okay. I agree. Thank you for sharing that. When did the shift, would you say, happen career-wise? When did the shift happen? Like, when did you decide that, you know what, I want to do more than just being mediocre and just kind of working for someone? When would you say that happened? So I've never been mediocre. I've always been an overachiever in every area of my life, every aspect of my life. I would always be willing to take up a challenge. I would always be willing to do a lot more than is expected of me from when I was really young. And so even when I got into the career world, I would be amongst my peers, but I would always stand out because I was willing to go the extra mile, do, a little extra than what, was allocated to me. So when I started out as a management trainee, for example, in the advertising agency that I worked at then, I would take it on as a challenge when my supervisors would give feedback to other people, right? I would analyze their discussions, or I would analyze their feedback and wonder why I couldn't give that same feedback. Part of me knew that it was experience talking, but another part knew that for you to have experience, within a very short period of time. You needed knowledge, right? So I would read really wide. I was exposed to a lot of comms then, even things that at my level, I wasn't expected to know, so I would expose myself to a lot of information, and just challenge myself to be better. And so after spending 4 years plus in the agency, because I was focused on advertising, I knew that I needed to polish all the other aspects, marketing, pillars, for me. I needed to experience it so that I could be a well-rounded individual, right? And so I left. I mean, there was safety, there was comfort in having that job, but I knew that I wanted to be more in a very short period of time. And for me to achieve that, there were some things that I needed to check off my list, right? So I moved to my next place where I was exposed to a totally different aspect of marketing. And I was happy for the experience, and for every time I moved to a new place or had to do a new thing, I would take on that ownership, right? So it was not, for me, I wasn't looking at things from a point of an employee. I always looked at it from a point of this experience I'm gaining, this knowledge I'm gaining is for me to put into my own business in the near future, right? So it was just getting paid to learn. That was how I saw it, right? So I was getting paid a salary to do a job, but also to learn, to upskill myself. And so for every point, in my career, I would treat it as such. And so when the opportunity came for me to start my own business, I was leveraging all the experience and everything that I had learned on my way to where I am currently. And then I'm deploying into my other business. So for me, I'm enjoying the best of both worlds. I'm enjoying being at the top of my career, and I'm also enjoying running a business that I'm passionate about and I'm also earning from.
That is such a big point. I wanted to touch on the fact that you mentioned that even when you were working, you already kind of had an end goal in mind. So you saw it as an opportunity to learn. So you were being paid to do a job, but you didn't do it casually. You did it with passion because you saw it as a chance that that these skills I'm actually learning and adopting, I'm going to utilize it one day for my own business. Yeah, I think that is such a boss move, Nengi. That is such a boss move. I was going to go to the next question now, which is what this podcast is really about. Motherhood. I was like, there has been for you.
Wow. Sometimes I still pinch myself like I am somebody's mother. I am two people's mother. I can't believe like this little girl, sometimes it just blows my mind. I can't wrap my head around it. But the reality is I've been someone's mother for 8 years. I've been another person's mother for 6 years. It's unbelievable. It's been a journey. I mean, I've learned so much about myself. I've become more self-aware. I've become more understanding, more forgiving, a lot more just empathetic, right? And then a lot more responsible. I mean, you're responsible for the lives of this little ones, so it's been a great journey. We're still on the journey. Sometimes you feel overwhelmed. Sometimes you feel guilty, especially as a worker. Sometimes you feel like you're not doing your best, but you pick yourself up. So there are good days, there are not so good days, but all in all, as long as your kids are happy, are healthy, and you are happy and healthy, your home is, good, I think tomorrow would always be better. So
let's explore that sentence where sometimes you feel guilty, because we all feel guilty, but let's explore that a bit more.
Yeah.
Could you kind of touch on that, explain a bit more, or give us an example of a situation where you felt guilty, but ultimately you're trying to do this for the good of the family?
I mean, for every time my kids are playing and maybe someone falls down and scrapes his knee, I feel guilty. It's not like I can do anything about those instances, right? But it just feels like, oh God, I'm not there to protect them, but they would be kids. So that's an everyday, every second occurrence. But for specific instances, you have cases like maybe events, right, where you are not able to start that event from the beginning, or you are on the whole WhatsApp group and there are some people who are very active, right? Some mothers who are very active, and you wonder, oh my God, how are they doing it? Like they're going for all the PTA meetings, they're going for rehearsals, for maybe some extracurricular activities that parents are supposed to, participate in. They're doing everything and they're just, and you wonder like, oh my God, like, do my kids feel like I am not as active as this mom? Does it, diminish relationship as a result of that? So sometimes that could be really, it could be really, something that just makes you consider, what you're doing, and are you doing the best as a mother for your kids?
So for me, last week, they asked the boys to dress up as astronauts. Okay, so I did that. Then the week before, they said that they should make a robot. So that was we have to try and find and make a robot. Now I just got a message a few minutes ago from the ICT teacher about making the computer of the future. And I thought, which mom has the time to do all these things? Like, I don't understand. So, I was just like, and I think as a mom, you don't want your child to be the one that has no. Absolutely. Or doing this thing that the teacher has asked for. I think some parents take it on like a project. Not so
yes, they do.
The child doesn't actually do the project. Parents are the ones doing the project. I felt very proud with my cardboard robots and everything. And as soon as I walked into the school gate, I was like, oh no, because I saw some robots looking like real robots. It's interesting.
Sometimes I joke with my sister-in-laws and I say that some of these assignments are not meant for kids. It's not possible, Sometimes this is just meant to show that, oh, the school is putting so much effort in teaching them, but really, how many of these kids can actually do this stuff? And if we're going to give them this assignment, then don't score them low because their designs or because whatever it is that they're bringing to the table is just a regular kids, like what you're saying, comparing a full-formed robot that all you need to do is put a battery in it versus, the cardboard thing that, is normal for a kid to have made. So,
yeah, I empathize with you. I understand exactly what you mean with the WhatsApp meet, with the parents meeting, with the numerous projects, and you have to juggle that, and obviously juggle work, juggle your own passions as well. So that really leads me to my next question: like, how do you balance being a mom and being a boss mom?
Oh well, I think it's a daily struggle. For the most part of it, I've been able to establish a routine, right? So the first thing that I would say to every working mom is to get help, right? It doesn't diminish you as a mother. It doesn't make you feel any less than you are, right? It gives you the peace of mind to be able to do other things if you know that some areas of your life or some areas of your home is covered. So I have help. I have a cook. I have a cleaner. I have a nanny. I know. So I'm able to give them instructions. I'm able to monitor them. I mean, I have CCTV cameras, audio cameras in my house. I'm able to listen in to everything that is happening in my house at any time, right? When I'm at work. And then when I come home, I make sure my kids are very vocal. So they would recount every single thing that has happened in the house. So aside from even the technological parts that enables me keep track, right? My kids are also, very instrumental, to getting me on the same page with them. I try to ask a lot of questions. What do you do in school? What do you do at home? How was your day? What was your routine? So a lot of those questions allows me, kind of be part of their lives, right? When I'm not there physically, and also allows me to keep track of whatever the checks or the system that I put in place, if it's working or if it isn't. So if I send some things, I may not even react when my kids are telling me. I just go behind and correct it with, the caregiver and all that. And then I also make sure that sometimes, because over time you feel guilty or missing, some times that maybe mom, my tooth fell out today or something happened and, you're not there. And I try as much as possible to dedicate my weekends to my kids, at least the daytime part of it, to just sit with them, not necessarily going out or anything, but just being present, right? They love to come into my room every day if I let them, just to feel closer to me. So I let them do that on the weekends and sometimes on the weekdays. And for other aspects of my life, I mean, my husband is the very best man I could have ever, married. I mean, he is as supportive as they come. I can't even explain how supportive my husband is. He's been, instrumental to my balancing my career and my work, because I know he's my greatest cheerleader. So at work, he wants me to be my best. At home, he understands when, I'm trying to schedule or delegate and all that. So having a supportive partner is also something that has enabled me thrive. And then I would say that just being attentive, being prayerful, and not sometimes forgiving yourself, right? Because if you carry guilt around and not your best, you would always be afraid, you would always, not be the best possible person that you can be. So I think those are the ways that I've been able to, ensure balance.
So, Nengi, from everything you've said, it seems like it's instrumental that we have a lot of support around us. Having a supportive spouse is key. Like, it's going to be extremely difficult as for a woman, a married woman, to kind of get to certain heights if the partner at all isn't supportive. So that's number one that you mentioned. I really wanted to kind of reiterate. And secondly, is just having that help at home. Having a nanny, it's not, or having a cleaner, having someone to help you. It doesn't diminish. That was the word you used. And I agree with that. Really, it doesn't diminish your role as a mom. It doesn't diminish the fact that you're a nurturer, you're a caregiver. Because at the end of the day, we can't do everything, and women are brought up that you have to kind of do everything. And this is why there's been a lot of pressure recently, especially as modern moms, because modern moms are working, modern moms are CEOs, modern moms are
absolutely. Yeah.
So to be in the workplace and do every single thing at home, cook, clean, people are struggling because they want to keep up appearances and appear that they're doing everything. And it's not practical sometimes. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And it's just highlighting the reality that when a mom sees you and she's she admires you, just so she knows also that you have support as well.
Oh, yes.
And they can also utilize support and go after their dreams and achieve what they want to achieve. Thank you for mentioning that. So what practical steps? You've mentioned the support and the help and the CCTV. I love that you mentioned that as well. I also have a CCTV in my house. What are the practical steps would you say you need to manage both successfully?
So I would say that, first of all, knowing what is required on the home front, as well as, in work space. So when I say that, I mean knowing the dynamics of your home, knowing the dynamics of your relationship with your spouse, and just really understanding what that is. Because there are a lot of people that take advice from people and they just put it into play without understanding what the current dynamics of the arrangement is and how that advice would work for them. So some people could have spouses that don't necessarily want people in their homes or in their spaces, right? And then you want to get living help. That would automatically cause conflict. So that's why immediately after I mentioned about support, I also mentioned about my spouse, because it's really important to understand that dynamic. It's also important to understand boundaries and values and the things that you are willing to trade off and the things that you are not willing to, right? So even in my balancing and in seeking support and help, there are some things that I would want to do myself, right? There are some things like extracurricular activities that my kids are supposed to, go for or do. And I am just not comfortable letting the driver and the nanny take them. Let's say swimming or, any other extracurricular activity. I would rather not let my kids go for that than to take them out of the house and have these people, mind them outside the home. Right. So a couple of boundaries for me that I've set to make sure that I don't overdo the whole, support and not being there, and also making sure that my spouse is also confident that that I still have a hang of things. You understand? So those are the little ways that I make sure, I'm on track. And when I see that I'm veering off, right, I'm able to pull myself back and say, you know what, Nengi, you need to know that this is more important than this other thing that you're chasing, right? And then I step back a little. I, try to reschedule, right? I reschedule some events, some industry events that I'm supposed to be at, and then maybe my son is running temperature. He may not be ill, right? But he's clingy, right? So there are just things that you should establish from the get-go, that this line I would not cross, right? This particular activity I would not do, because it would be either it would send a wrong message to your spouse, or to, whatever it is that you're doing, or to just guide you in general, how you intend to like balance your home and your work as well.
One of the things you mentioned, which I think is very, very important, was that you've actually set up things that makes you as a person accountable. So you've put things in place that is like a check and balance, just to like, okay, these are boundaries I wouldn't cross. And the fact that you've set those boundaries yourself speaks to your empathy, speaks to the fact that you want to be a present mom as best as you can.
Yeah.
So I think that's such a good point that you've mentioned that. So for women that want to get back to the workplace, the image I have in my mind is a woman that's taking some time off to have babies. And the work environment sometimes can be so harsh to that group. They say, oh, you have this gap in your CV. Like, so they would probably pick someone with a consistent work experience over a mom that has taken some time out to have her kids. So what advice would you give a woman that is trying to get back to the workplace, trying to do more for herself career-wise?
Wow, that's such an interesting question, simply because when I had my baby, the first one, he was about 6 weeks late. So I had started my maternity leave 6 weeks before I was supposed to. I really wanted to just go, and then after a week or two, I would give birth so that I have enough time with him afterwards. And because I had already spent 6 weeks, that was my first pregnancy, and I was still a junior associate then. I ended up resuming work. I think when he was like 2 months, right? I was lucky to have my mom around, so she helped me a lot in that period. But I really understand, because there are some people that don't have support, right? And if you have a very young baby, you may not be comfortable leaving him to strangers, to mind. And so sometimes some moms feel pressure to leave work for a period of time to nurse their babies, right? Sometimes your spouse will not, want you to go back to work, especially when you have a very young baby, so there are different things that happen. My second baby, he was a lot easier. I left work on a Thursday and I gave birth on a Tuesday. So that was easy. I worked till literally the last moment. And so I had a lot more time with him. However, I was resuming into a new job as I was coming back from maternity. And so because you're resuming into a new job in a senior position, there was some expectation, that you needed to carry the team, you needed to hit the ground running. There was so much expectation, and nobody was going to listen to the fact that you just gave birth. It's a new place. And I never want to give the excuse that, oh, I'm a mom, or, oh, I just had a baby. I never ever give that excuse. I try as much as possible. I'm glad that that has never come up in my entire career. But I know that some people don't have that privilege, right? To not allude to that. And also some people are caught in the space of maybe not recovering fully, and because of that they need to drop off. I would say it there's a certain bias, right, in the workplace for women who just give birth, or women who are even pregnant, and they're wondering, oh my God, they are going to have to pay you for the period that you're not available. Then they're going to have to get a replacement for you. And then when you come back, will you be up to your full capacity, to take on the job? Or if you even decide to extend, you feel some kind of pressure, or you feel guilty. I would say that, first of all, if you cannot afford to come back to the workplace after birth, then you can't. Like, you can't put yourself and your health and your baby at risk, right? Because you need to get back to the workplace, right? But the most important part of it is, who were you before you got pregnant, right? Who were you before you gave birth, right? And that has been my driving force. I was always a top performer before I got pregnant. I was always a top performer, even while I was pregnant. So first of all, there was no doubt in the minds of my superiors, my employers, that I would come back, to give the same energy, even though I would take, if I had to take some extra time away, right? And if at the end of the day, even when you are a top performer and maybe due to extenuating circumstances, they let you go, right? You are not worried, because it may take some time, but when you eventually land that job, right, you will hit the ground running, and it will be like you never left, right? So that's the other thing. And then for some people who are not necessarily lucky to get a new job after maybe they've been let go, or something happens that they can't return back to their previous place of employment, I would say that having a gap year, whether as a result of pregnancy, or whether it's as a result of job loss or relocation, whatever it is not the end of the world, right? It is the steps, or whatever you are doing within that gap year, within that gap period, that would determine what your next level, or what your next phase would be, right? So it is making sure that you are, even though you are unemployed, you are not idle, right? You are not idle, right? There's a lot of resources out there right now that can still keep you, in top shape, abreast of all the things that are happening within your industry, even while you're out of a job, right? And then you can also look at it as an opportunity to be more self-aware, as well as get a lot more experience that is not necessarily on your job or on the job, right? You can gain more experience that may even allow you to pivot into a new work stream, or something that will give you an edge, in your next job interview, or the next place that you will go into. So it is how you treat those few months that you are not able to get employment, how you treat that period, that will determine how you bounce back in the next period. So don't hold on to that victim mentality, because the basis of it is, it has happened, right? Things would always happen. Things may not be fair, to a certain class of people, but never hold on to that and make it define how long you stay in that position, right? Keep it moving, keep it going, believe in yourself, and understand that it's just a job. At the end of the day, you are good enough to get, since you are good enough to get the previous job, you'll be good enough to get the next place that you'll be. And you make sure that you upskill yourself so that you can be even better a candidate for the next place that you'll be in.
Wow, Nengi, you were like preaching, like you were preaching. That was amazing. That was amazing, because it's not having that victim mentality, upskilling yourself. There are always resources online. Just believing that even if a company lets you go, if you believe in yourself, you can offer more to another company. So that is such an amazing point. Well, I wanted to just go back a little bit. When you said you left when you had your first baby and you had to go back after 2 months, how was that? How did that feel? I'm asking because I was in exactly the same position. Here in UAE, you only get 3 months maternity. And how was it for you going back on that?
I mean, going back to work. So it was two things. The first thing was the fact that I just had a baby, right? The second thing was I was a new mom, right? So I just had a baby as a young executive, and all my peers, all my friends were single. They were not married. Like, so I was experiencing it for the first time, even amongst my peers. So I didn't have anybody to like run to and say, oh my God, this is happening. They didn't understand. They were still living the baby girl life, but I was busy clenching to my breast just in case it starts leaking. You know, it was wild. It was wild. There were a lot of bursts, a lot of new things that I had to, and also the fact that I did not want to be away from my baby. I didn't understand why I needed to work. You know, I started to reconsider a lot of things like, what is going on? Why do I have to do this? You know, but as I said, I had a supportive spouse who, you know, kept on telling me that I could do it. Sometimes I would wake up exhausted because he only fed during the early hours of the day, right? So he would wake up maybe 1 a.m. and he would just sleep for like 2 minutes and then he'd wake up again till like 6. And I'll need to get up and go to work. So I would be exhausted. And I was in the account management department, which meant, you know, you're client facing, you have to go for meetings, you have to be like the face of the business. I couldn't afford to be, you know, shabby looking. I still needed to be on my best just to represent the company, but still being a mom, right? I was grateful for a lot of understanding clients. I had older clients there, a lot of women who understood. They were happy to see me back at work, and every opportunity they had to like give me advice or to just tell me that I was doing good, you know, or to just excuse a few minutes that I'll have to go out and pump, you know, those were things that I really appreciated for my first pregnancy. So it was really interesting, but it just prepared me for my next baby. You know, that's what I would say.
Thank you for sharing that, because it really isn't easy sometimes. That it shows that juggling both. And if the maternity is not that long as well, it can be a bit of a challenge because it's still a part of you wants to be at home. Your baby's natural is human nature.
Yeah.
And obviously you're being relied upon at work that you have to deliver 100% as well. So yeah, I'm so glad you shared that. Thank you for sharing. So we normally end our podcast with 3 questions, and I would start with the first one. The first one is, being a mom has done what for you? Being a mom has made me a better human, I would say, because I mean, the fact that you're responsible for 2 human beings, it just makes you, first of all, it makes me hustle even harder, you know, because I want to be able to give my kids the best possible, you know, life, right? I want them to explore their potential. So it makes me hustle even. It has made me a lot more self-aware. I understand myself so well. I understand how to prioritize better. It has helped me in the workplace because the way I run my home now is very efficient. And so I transfer that to even my subordinates, right? I'm able to delegate even better, right? So it has affected my life positively across every facet of my life. Yeah. I feel happiest when so if you can finish the sentence, I feel happiest when I
feel happiest when I'm doing what I love, right? So being a mom is what I love. I love it so much. Being a career woman, an inspiration to a lot of the younger ones, especially within my industry. You know, it gives me joy being able to do a lot of the side hustle that I do that is born out of passion, out of love, you know. So I feel happiest when I'm doing what I love. Even my career path is what I love.
That includes interior decoration.
Yeah, I include that as well. Yeah, it does include that.
And the last one is, if you could tell 5-year-old Nengi something, what would you tell her?
I would say relax, baby girl. Like your dreams are going to come true. Your dreams are going to come true. I've always been someone who's anxious for the future, anxious for, what's going to happen next, even though I can't control it, but I just, I'm really, maybe not anxious, but excited about what's next, what's going to happen in my life next and all that. And that has made me, want to hustle to, be the best at every point in time. Right. So I would say, relax, your dreams will come true. I mean,
Wow, thank you so much, Nengi, for joining us today. Thank you for sharing openly and honestly. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and you're doing amazing. I watched the last episode. It was really good. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to having future conversations with you.